This is the Peugeot 2008, which is the French automaker's answer to the likes of the Honda HR-V, Toyota Corolla Cross, and basically a lot of other subcompact crossover SUVs. Whereas most consumers buy a subcompact SUV for practicality purposes, the Peugeot 2008 caters to a different niche. So this is the Peugeot 2008, which is basically the French automaker's rival to the likes of the Honda HR-V, the Corolla Cross, and well, compared to those two cars, I do think that this is the better looking one compared to the Asian competitors. So it begins with this distinct front end, so meron kang fang-like daytime running lights, which looks really distinct, especially kapag sa umaga where these DRLs are turned on, so you have this fang effect nga, putting that in quotes. Then, of course, you have the Peugeot badge up front, the lion badge. For this is the older logo. They have a newer logo if you're gonna see the corporate communication items. So, the Peugeot 308 and 408 are the first cars to have the new Peugeot logo. But I digress. So, moving down the sides, you have 17-inch alloy wheels. Pero it's a bit odd for Peugeot because these only have 4 lug nuts, and like the usual 17-inch wheels by that size, usually 5 lug nuts ka na. Pero yeah, still, it's a good-looking wheel. Then, blacked out mirrors, you have a blacked out C-pillar as well for a more distinct rugged appearance. Sleek pala, sleek appearance because of the floating roof effect. And then, black-ish chrome door handles. And then, pagdating din sa kanyang roof, makikita mo may karing roof rack, which is actually an optional equipment dito kasama sa kotse. Of course, you have to pay extra for this roof rack, which I'm gonna let you see down the screen on how much that roof rack costs. And then, quite distinct side profile, by the way, kasi meron triangular character lines here, which is not what you would normally see in other Asian crossover SUVs. And then down at the back, you have the claw LED taillights then, like the front, mimicking the front end headlight graphics. So looks very distinct. And then you have the black trim piece connecting the two taillights para mas mukha siyang cohesive, like a one-piece design thing. So yeah, it's a very distinct looking crossover SUV, itong Peugeot 2008. It looks really nice, really handsome, probably one of my favorites actually in the segment. So now I think it's a good time for us to move into the interior of the Peugeot 2008. Alright, so we're here inside the new Peugeot 2008 and it's a very distinct interior. That's one thing that I'm gonna say agad sa itsura ng Peugeot 2008. So it's a very distinct design. You have 2 pods as usual, the Peugeot iCockpit design language yung interior nila. So you have the infotainment, the digital gauges, and by the way, the digital gauges are worth noting kasi this is not just a screen. Medyo holographic siya, kung sabihin natin, so 3-dimensional because Peugeot actually used 2 screens based on what I've analyzed. So they used 2 screens, once parang being bounced off from a mirror, a reflector basically, para when you do that, it's actually 3-dimensional yung kanyang 3D gauge cluster. No? It's actually pretty cool. Very trippy tingnan sa totoo lang. And I've always mentioned this sa mga Peugeot reviews ko with the iCockpit design language. No? So, as usual, the steering wheel sits below the gauge cluster. No? So, in my position sa ngayon, sa totoo lang, the steering wheel is not in my ideal height because sa totoo lang, ito yung ideal height ko. Pero with this position, it's actually completely blocking the gauges na. The other cars sa 5008 and 3008, I don't have that issue actually sa gauges niya. No? So talagang at my ideal steering height, okay pa yung gauges niya. But here, it's already completely blocking my view, so I have to lower it a bit. So yeah, better try out at your local Peugeot dealer first before getting a 2008 to see if the driving position is gonna be compromised for you if you have these digital gauges kasi, no? So it might block your view. But anyhow, yeah, the interior is distinctly designed. Yung nga lang, it's hard plastics in all places. It's really just hard plastics. There's also a lot of piano black, but at least, yeah, because of the piano black, normally I would complain about that, pero at least here it's somehow jazzing up the interior along with the faux carbon fiber trims and of course the blue ambient lighting kapag nasa gabi. Speaking of the design, it's really very French, very distinct nga. I've said distinct a lot of times probably in this video. No? Bilangin nyo nga kung ilang beses kong sinabing distinct and baka magka-premyo kayo. You also have yung kanyang controls. So, yes, you have physical toggles here, but they're usually just shortcuts. So if you want to change the air conditioning, for example, ng temperature, you have to press AC dito sa kanang side buttons. Pero yun nga, again, as I've always mentioned, I prefer physical hard buttons compared to diving into the touchscreen just to change the air conditioning settings. So other than that, the infotainment system's the same with other Peugeots pa rin. It's your usual Peugeot infotainment system, which means it's, in terms of looks, it's something that looks nice naman. But again, it's something that you're gonna feel weird sa una mong gamit ng infotainment system. But eventually, you're gonna get used to the logic of the infotainment system. You also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, though not wireless nga lang. Pero okay lang. For me, sa to lang, medyo mixed bag sa akin ng wireless smartphone mirroring features. And then you also have a 6-speaker sound system, if that's worth mentioning, I guess. I mean, okay naman yung sound system niya. Other parts of the interior, the seats are very comfortable. They're really nice. They're leatherette, by the way, not genuine leather. It's synthetic leather, but it's okay. The feel of it is really nice. And then, yeah, the Peugeot 2008 has a distinct interior. Maybe in terms of ergonomics, mixed bag siya sa akin, putting more or less, I guess, style over ergonomics. But yeah, overall, it's a really nice interior, and it's a good time, I guess, for me now to move to the rear seats of the Peugeot 2008. So now that we're here at the back of the Peugeot 2008, this is my driving position basically sa front seat. So medyo atras siya, syempre to compensate for my tall height. So yeah, at the back here in terms of space, it's actually pretty okay. Not as good as the Honda HR-V. That's my benchmark for rear legroom kasi ang sobrang lubog talaga ng Honda HR-V. But overall, okay naman yung Peugeot 2008 in terms of legroom. It's not the best, but I fit really well naman. There's plenty of foot space as well, so I can really stretch out on long drives. And nga lang, speak of long drives, there's not a lot of amenities here to keep you entertained or comfortable enough, I guess, for a long drive. I mean, I'm not saying na hindi comfortable ito, but you don't have a rear center armrest, wala kang ganon, so that means you have no cup holder sa middle. You also have no aircon vent sa gitna, only a pocket for whatever storage you plan to have here. 2 seat back pockets, then that's basically actually it in terms of rear seat amenities. So the Corolla Cross and Honda HR-V have better amenities at the rear seats, so that's something that you have to keep in mind if you're buying a Peugeot 2008. But yeah, it's okay at the back here. Maluwag naman, comfortable siya. But for 1.6 million pesos, I actually expect a bit more in terms of creature comforts for the rear seat passengers. So now that's a good time to talk about the trunk space naman of the Peugeot 2008.
And then as for cargo space, the Peugeot 2008 offers front end 34 liters, which is just on par for the class. Fold those rear seats down, and this increases to nearly 1500 liters, which is again sakto lang for the class, but the Honda HR-V offers significantly more with those magic rear seats. Nevertheless, power in this Peugeot 2008 is a 1.2-liter 3-cylinder turbocharged gasoline engine, which produces decent numbers. This then drives the front wheels via a 6-speed automatic transmission.
So we've hit the road with the Peugeot 2008, and what you're gonna notice immediately when you start driving this car is it's actually a very refined small crossover SUV. So ang quiet niya in terms of road and wind noise. So in terms of rigidity, solidity, it's very European. It's what I look for in a European car. So on that part, I like the Peugeot 2008 because it makes it a very relaxing long distance cruiser. So but before we head to the highway, let's see the Peugeot 2008, how it performs here sa mga normal and twisty roads. So here in normal road, so basically your city driving, the suspension's on the jittery side of things in terms of yung kanang right quality. It's not matagtag, pero the slower you are, the jittery the ride is for some reason. It's quite unsettled, so kahit yung mga small imperfections actually goes through the cabin unfiltered. So at higher speeds, mas maganda yung ride niya, kaganda ang ride niya when you go faster. But yun nga, at slower speeds, it's kind of jittery yung kanyang ride. Then in terms of yung kanyang engine, it's a 1.2-liter 3-cylinder turbocharged gasoline engine. Observation ko lang sa engine niya is power is delivered in a linear fashion, no? Usually sa mga turbo engines, nasanay na ako na you have so much torque at the lower end. Pero here in the Peugeot 2008, parang there's torque but in a linear manner in delivery niya. So we don't have that parang low-end punch. I mean, meron naman siyang hatak, but I mean, there's not so much of a low-end punch as you would probably expect na turbo engine. But for me, that's okay because it means that the engine's linear yung kanyang power delivery. Yun nga lang, hindi ko alam if it's from the turbo or the transmission, yung kanyang parang lag sa kanyang, let's say, when you 10%, about 10% yung apak mo kung sabihin lang natin sa throttle niya. Let's say you're crawling sa traffic. That's about it. Very minor lang naman, pero the engine sounds good, I think, for a 3-cylinder. Kasi at higher revs, kapag let's say you're overtaking other cars, agad ang tunog niya. So, actually, ganda. Maganda yung hatang niya, maganda yung tunog niya kapag let's say gusto mong overtake. It actually sounds nice for a 3-cylinder engine. Unlike yung let's say mga Toyota Mirage. Toyota Mirage? Mitsubishi Mirage na yun nga, it sounds very thrummy yung 3-cylinder nung Mirage basically, or ng Toyota Wigo. But anyhow, it's a nice engine naman overall. Very fuel efficient, by the way. This engine is really fuel efficient. So, believe it or not, this is the most fuel efficient car that I've driven by far that isn't electrified. So, hindi siya hybrid, hindi siya plug-in hybrid, hindi siya mild hybrid. It's very, very good actually for a gas-powered car. No? So, I've been doing, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, 14 km per liter with this small crossover SUV. I mean, dude, that's only 2 km per liter off compared sa, let's say, sa Nissan Kicks. This is not an electrified car. This is just a pure combustion engine vehicle. And ang ganda na fuel economy. It's really, really nice. So we've talked about ride comfort and then yung kanyang fuel efficiency, how the engine performs at city speed. So how about if you're driving it more enthusiastically? So yun nga, that engine sounds really good actually for a 3-cylinder. So yung tunog niya. And then, tawag dito, if we're gonna bring this, let's say, through corners, I like the chassis tuning. Maganda yung grip levels ng chassis niya, maganda yung suspension in terms of how it deals with body roll. So, I guess that's one upside of having a firmer suspension setup nga. So, it handles nicely through corners. However, yun nga lang, if you think that this is gonna be a sporty crossover SUV, I'm sorry to report, but it's not. It's more of a long-distance cruiser talaga, ang Peugeot 2008. Because the steering is very light. Hindi siya, let's say, for example, the Mazda CX-30 or the Subaru XV, na medyo may weight yung kanyang electric power steering and a bit of feedback. Ito, this is accurate naman yung steering niya. But in terms of feel, there's really not much in terms of that. And it's also light pa, so yeah, it's really a comfort-oriented steering rather than something that you're gonna chuck it into corners. The brakes are okay naman yung brakes. I mean, there's nothing really special to report about them. They slow the car down and yeah, that's really pretty much about it. So dito naman sa highway, the Peugeot 2008, as mentioned kanina, mas nag-i-improve pa yung kanyang long-distance driving characteristics. So, as mentioned din kanina na yung kanyang low-speed ride is on the jittery side nga. But here, kapag mas mabilis sa takbo mo, the Peugeot 2008 absorbs the bumps much better. So, mas may controlled and supple ride ka na. May firmness pa rin, but you know, it's much better compared to its low-speed ride. And then, yeah, as mentioned din kanina, road and wind noise is actually kept to a minimum. The Peugeot 2008 is very quiet. It's a very relaxing car to drive on long distances. And as with every European car, true European cars, kasi I'm looking at you MG who's pretending to be British, they all have a high degree of solidity and stability and refinement. So the 2008 feels much like a bigger car compared to, let's say, its competitors. Kasi for example, the Honda HR-V, medyo may onting medyo mas matapang yung kanyang road noise compared to the Peugeot. So in terms of refinement, this feels like a step above in terms of that big car feel. Out here sa highway, mas lalong fuel efficient lalo yung kanyang 3-cylinder turbocharged gasoline engine. And despite being a tiny engine, because of the turbos nga, yung kanyang engine actually has good punch and good pulling power. So yung kanyang, let's say, acceleration from 60 to 100, 80 to 100, or 90 to 120 if may opportunity kang lumampas ng 100 for some reason. Yun, basically, maganda yung hatak ng 1.2 liter turbocharged gasoline engine na to. And as mentioned din kanina, sa mga twisty driving natin, it sounds good for a 3-cylinder. Yun nga lang, having said that, I just realized pala, when you start up the car, ng, let's say, yung frequent startup, para for example, kakapatay mo lang, tapos binuksan mo ulit after like 5 seconds, or joke lang, 5 minutes naman, hindi naman 5 seconds. Parang mas matindi yung shudder niya when the car starts. Kapag, let's say, medyo fresh mo lang na pinatay yung makina. Pero other than that, the 3-cylinder engine is pretty good. It's actually pretty smooth din. Hindi siya yung, kasi usually pag 3-cylinder engines, ma-vibrations, and because you only have one cylinder canceling out the vibration of the other 2 cylinders. So, yun, matindi vibrations yan usually, but in the 2008, maganda yung kanyang engine mounts, kung sabihin natin, kaya hindi ma-vibration yung makina niya even under hard acceleration. And yeah, that's basically the Peugeot 2008. So it's really good in terms of refinement. Comfort, medyo mixed bag, kasi nga pagka nasa city ka, it's on the jittery side yung kanyang ride, but yun nga, as you speed up, the ride gets better. Refinement's also pretty good. So kung you wanna stand out in a sea of Asian cars, this Peugeot 2008 is really perfect for you. So yeah.
The Peugeot 2008 is the French automaker's most affordable offering. Though ever since this car was initially launched, prices have increased quite significantly. Originally priced at around 1.5 million pesos, the 2008 now retails for more than 1.7 million pesos. Which, next to the Toyota Corolla Cross GRS Hybrid, it seems the Peugeot 2008 has become a bit too expensive. For that price, you get stuff like LED headlights, LED taillights, smart entry with push-button start, those holographic digital gauges, and only a few driver assistance tech, ranging from automatic emergency braking, lane keeping assist, blind spot warning, but no rear cross traffic alert, and adaptive cruise control. Which again, the Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid and even the base Honda HR-V offer as standard. But then again, Peugeots often target a niche market. And in this case, it's for people who prioritize character and style over everything else. When using objective metrics, there are plenty of subcompact crossovers out there that cost less, yet are nearly matched or even better in some aspects than the Peugeot 2008. But if you wanna stand out in the subcompact crossover segment, you'll easily be able to achieve that with the Peugeot 2008.